30 and 31 have been removed for separate consideration. Just need a vote if the resolution or an intent vote.
Moving to a vote on the balance, favoring, opposed, items carried. Let us shuffle somewhere.
Okay, item 35 are the proposed amendment that was submitted on July the 30th.
We distributed a matrix to council members earlier in the week. The motion was that we follow the matrix as presented. If you need another copy, we'll be happy to distribute those. Otherwise, we will be starting with the first page of the matrix, and the first issue was an amendment by Councilman Stardy, starting one. Chair recognizes Councilmember Stardy.
Thank you, Mayor. I think we've discussed for a number of weeks now that the disabled community has been a part of the conversations and the stakeholders table to present their needs, and along with the rest of the stakeholders, we've heard that they are supportive of these amendments, and that I asked my colleagues to support amendment number 1 regarding for the public. This is creating the excuse me, make sure I got the number of them, as you know. This sets the benchmark that within 3 years, not less than 5% of the vehicle for hire fleet in Houston will be wheelchair accessible.
Yeah, it's actually, it doesn't require a second. The item before us is their discussion on starting 1. Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make sure that there's absolute clarity as to what's being offered here. The 5% will include the total citywide vehicle for hire fleet, and doesn't necessarily impact new entrants exclusively. Am I correct on that?
Councilmember Stardy.
We have, I'm looking for the language where we have the rest of it addressed, where it's not to be satisfied by. It's an amendment number 2, I was looking for it. This section shall not be, because when we get to amendment number 2, it addresses that issue. So if you would like to refer to that, we've tried to address all of this. If you'd like to, I can consolidate that into this portion of it.
Councilmember Stardy presented her amendments as items are listed individually. They are a complete package, and when we get through all of Stardy's amendments, it'll do exactly what you said. We couldn't decide whether, because she had presented them individually, we listed them individually, but this one doesn't do what you want, but the next one does.
Okay, so let me try to get an understanding before we vote on this one exactly what this one does then, because if what you're saying is the order to which we must proceed, it seems that we should just vote on them as a package as opposed to individually trying to wade through them. I'm not sure what this amendment is going to do or not do.
Councilmember Stardy could make a motion to do all of her pieces at once. Councilmember Stardy.
May I respond?
Sure.
I have no objection to presenting them as a whole with the entire package. I think that we have the support of council and the stakeholders. So if we'd like to vote to move forward with the amendments as a package, I so move.
You mean you got the support of council to support all of them as a package, or?
No, to support I haven't heard any objections from my colleagues that there's any issues with the disabled portion, since this was brought forward by the disabled community.
Okay. Well, Mayor, I'm going to stand down and hear further discussion at this point. Thank you.
Okay. Let me formally recognize Councilmember Stardy because she was acting on your time. Councilmember Stardy, you wish to proper a motion?
I move that we consider the 6 amendments amendments that I brought forward as a package, as a whole.
Moved and seconded by Councilmember Green. Now, Councilmember Boyd.
Mayor, first of all, I'm in 100% support of your amendments, Brenda. I just had I want clarification on one part that deals with providing penalties for companies that do not provide consistent services. Do we have an idea what those penalties are? Is it a fine, or is it a termination of service? I don't know. Nothing is spelled out.
It goes before a hearing officer is what the ordinance defines, but I'm not the expert on on that part of the ordinance. But if I could get the legal or ARA to respond, I'd be happy to, but it goes before a hearing officer,
Okay.
is my understanding.
I know Ms. Pies is in the back. If we could bring her out to the front, please. Or Maria, or Shad, or someone who's in the back.
Mayor, I think it's in 46-5. I try to keep all of my elements of but if you'll pin that question, I'll move on.
Hey, Mayor, I just received something, and I'm just curious. Again, I'm with you, Brenda. I just want to be clear that we understand. I don't know if this amendment number 2 relates to, well, right here it says that to persons with disabilities subject to suspension or revocation of pursuant to the hearing conduct according to the process outlined in chapter 46. I just want to make certain that, the first is maybe a warning, the second, before we're trying to put stiff penalties. As the first, because it doesn't say, and I'm just not clear.
I'm asked to respond. I believe that it was explained to me that it would be
Let's,
hearing officer.
if y'all would stop for a moment, please, and let me get the expert thing up here. Ms. Pies. I don't know that you. I need a question.
And I was just curious about this. As I mentioned to Councilmember Starling, I support the amendment, and I commend her and you and the group for working with the disabled issue. But it just seemed like an open question, open statement where it says her second amendment provides penalties for companies that do not provide consistent or equivalent services. And I was asking the question, what type of penalties? I mean, what are the penalties?
The penalties are actually laid out further in the other amendments. It's revocation, suspension, and citation. So there would be citations for the drivers, then they would be called into a hearing
Okay.
automatically that would set them free. Their suspension of their license, revocation of their license. Continuation of not providing equivalent service could also result in the same penalties for the company.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Again, the motion before us is to consider the first 6 items on the matrix, starting 1 through 6 as a package. Councilmember Bradley.
Thank you. Now that we have a consolidated motion in front of us, I want to revert to the question, trying to get a better understanding as to what is it that we're going to be voting specifically on. And my particular question is, as the item is before us in a consolidated fashion, what percentage of the vehicle for hire fleet must accommodate disabled citizens?
Councilmember Stark, you may respond, or I'll ask Ms. Pies to come back up.
I would prefer the Ms. Pius because I would like to highlight some of the things that it actually changes, and if you would allow me to do that, when I get my opportunity, I'll put myself in the queue, because.
Well, I'm just trying to get an answer to my question now, if I may.
Yes, it's not, let me get the expert to answer the
Thank you.
question. That is not related directly to her amendment. Councilmember, Ms. Pies.
The 3% applies to 100% of the fleet. So if there's 5,000 or 6,000 vehicles in the fleet right now, the 3% would apply to that. And then what the task force would be charged with doing is determining what percentage would apply specifically to limos, taxis, low-speed shuttles, and every other vehicle for hire, including TNCs.
So the 3% applies to the entire citywide vehicle for hire fleet?
Yes, sir.
So if that percentage is already 10 or 14%, to say we're going to put a 5% or a 3% in place, that's really cosmetic, isn't it?
Only if that were true. We're not including in the calculation of that percentage those vehicles that are dedicated to MetroLift. So if you take those out, we're actually under 2% right now.
Okay. So citywide, vehicles for hire, we're under 2% now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the response. Thank you.
Councilmember Sturman.
Thank you. If you would bear with me and give me the opportunity to highlight some of the amendments, so for the public as well. While we focus on the 3%, what we're also focused on is the fact that it's not to be satisfied by any one category. Until such time that the task force is established and moves forward and reconvenes and brings their recommendations forward according to the amendments, that's where we're going to rely on the fact that ARA and the administration should have good data for us to be able to respond to concerns such as Councilmember Bradford and others may have. Right now, when we were going through this process, as I stated before, we had a real issue with clear, real data that I was comfortable with. So we put in there that the task force would have the opportunity to review good data, and then at that time, come back to this body with recommendations so that it would be an even playing field and that we can move forward, making sure that the disabled community was properly served. Right now, we may be under, we may be over, but the fact is, no one can really make that case either direction. The other part is, my colleague to my right was concerned that we had a language in there that said ramp or lift-equipped wheelchairs. So that was further defined in here for his request. We talked about see, there's so much in here. This is the most important part, I think, that if my colleagues would, this is very important, my colleagues, make sure that I'm getting everyone's attention at the table. This is very important. Each permittee and registrant has a responsibility to provide consistent and equivalent service to persons with disabilities. Did everyone hear that? That's what's important to me and to the disabled community. Each permittee and registrant has the responsibility to provide consistent and equivalent service to persons with disabilities. We can talk about percentages all day long, but if they park the vehicles because they're too expensive to run, or whatever they do, the fact is, if they're not responding and they're not providing the service, then it doesn't matter. Those numbers, you can talk numbers all day long. So I think that's very key to this, and that was brought to us by the disabled community, that language. The task force has defined the responsibilities of the task force. They're going to understand our intent by passing this ordinance. So when we come back, we'll have clear information so we can make good decisions. I think that's very important. So there's a number of pieces in here that I want to make sure. The other part is including but not limited to providing accessible means to request service, real-time resolution. Real-time resolution. If you're a person that's visually impaired or blind standing on a corner and the vehicle continues to pass you by, one of the companies said, well, how do you contact your company? By email. That doesn't work for a person that's blind standing on a corner when the car keeps passing them by, and they can stop and make a phone call and say, I'm the person with the star on my vest. You need to be looking for me. So, real-time resolution and support and complaint escalation procedures. These are things that are going to protect the persons with disabilities and all of our citizens. The things that we put in place for the disabled are the same things that are going to protect all citizens. Just like automated doors, everyone thinks, oh, that's our convenience, that's our right, that's what we should have. Those are put in place for persons with disabilities, not for us. So with all that said, we've got a number of other things here that are addressed, but I really appreciate everyone's support and feedback and the hard questions, the tough questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask them now. I'm willing to help you walk through it, but I think this is very important to the disabled community that we have that task force, that they're able to meet, convene, and come back based on real data. My colleague, Councilmember Brady, and I had this conversation a number of times. Real data is what we need. Thank you.